And we have in the studio Dr. Simeon Afolabi, who is a philanthropist and the founder of First Love Assembly. We want to say thank you very much for joining us. And he joins us to recommend how Nigerians can wriggle through the current hardship bedeviling them. I want to say thank you very much and good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we'll get it started by asking where a lot of people, I like to be optimistic. I'm one of those half glass full, rather than half glass empty.
Right.
It's just a matter of perception.
I think so.
Literally the same thing. So for you, do you see me as an optimist or a realist? Let's start it off from that particular point.
I think we should, I like to see, come from the optimistic view myself.
Okay.
However, if we are going to get anything out of our optimism, we have to go back and do what I call social re-engineering.
Okay.
There's going to be there's a need for social re-engineering of the entire system, of the entire nation. Otherwise, it will be like pouring water on the back of a basket. Regardless of what we want to do, what we want to achieve, there has to be a social re-engineering. And this is not the first time anyway. There has been previous attempt at social re-engineering, but inconsistency in policies and disjointed administrative continuity has led to the state where we are today. Maybe I'll be able to expand of this a little later. But if we want to get a better nation, we want to be able to get out of this dilemma, this quagmire we are in, we have to get ready to do a thorough social re-engineering.
What you say is true, because the truth is this. A lot of people talk about what Nigeria is currently going through. And you don't need to be an astrophysicist or a rocket scientist to be able to know how to get ourselves out of where we are right now. But there are stumbling blocks, visible stumbling blocks. And for lack of a better word, some will say there are gatekeepers that need to be appeased, literally. And hence, when you come into governance, you are actually walking with your hands tied behind your back and you know what to do. But because of encumbrances, because of a myriad of things you would have to contend with and you would have to appease, so to speak, you find you almost are stuck between the devil and the democracy. Yeah. How do we get to that point whereby we say to ourselves that enough is enough? Let's keep all the noise aside. Let's do what we have to do.
Back to the same thing. It is becoming repetitive now. It gets back to what I keep emphasizing, that we have to engage on social re-engineering. It's like getting back to the basics, because what we've been trying to do over the years is like building without foundation. And there's no way you can put a building on a non-existent foundation and expect it to stand. Now, if I can maybe be a little more elaborate on this. I remember way back when I graduated from the university, about 85, shortly before then was when we have these policy, this program launched by the then General Muhammadu Buhari on war against indiscipline. What was the objective? Okay, well, let's do things right. Let's the nature of corruption, the issue of corruption, the indiscipline in society. Let's tackle it at the root. Let's deal with it so we can have a better society. Now, that was interrupted by the Babangida coup.
Okay.
Now, when Babangida coup took place, they led the war against indiscipline and introduced MAMSA. MAMSA was a mass mobilization for social justice, self-reliance, and economic recovery. Now, these are all attempts in the past to bring about social re-engineering. But the problem is this: we have never really stayed on any policy course consistently to be able to have a desired result.
No, but you've just re-echoed my point. There are stumbling blocks. There are forces that probably are behind the curtain that are probably controlling things. Because the truth is this, a lot of people, which I do not agree with that particular school of thought, a lot of people have seen the cobwebs and the complication and the complexities that it will take for us to get to that level whereby there is that clarity to say we need to begin to re-engineer our minds. And the only thing people can think about that is plausible is a revolution. And I say that shouldn't be the only way. We should have a better path. So now the question is, what is that better path to be able to get ourselves and the government to the table whereby they begin to say, okay, we understand? Because I'm always of the school of thought that when the government says they understand the plight of the people, it is mere words, but their actions say something different because they do not really understand what the man in the street that probably would have to fend or probably maybe he has to contend with 100 naira loaf of bread for 5 children and does not have lights and he doesn't know how he'll get to work the next day to be able to make a living is going through. So the question is, how do we get ourselves to all come together to agree, consensus addendum, that we do need to begin to think differently, come up with policies that would help us in the long term?
I think the coming together has taken place over time. Let me bring this to you. The 2014 National Conference, for instance,
yes,
came up with a number of recommendations.
Yes, it did.
One of them was this issue of the national anthem that was just changed a few days ago.
Okay.
So there has always been the coming together. There's always been policy recommendations. There have always been idea that this is the right way to go. But I think the problem is
been academic.
Lack of political will to get these things done. That's the problem. As for the debates have been going on for as long as I can remember.
True.
We have debates, we have big brains, brilliant minds putting together issues, but when it comes to execution, the leaders recoil for whatever reason and do not have the political will to be able to execute this recommendation.
So how do
I think that's the problem.
How do we put pressure to ensure that that political will is there to cause this social re-engineering?
Now, that's where we need to come to this point. Let's begin by looking at these, for instance. Well, I have been a few decades here now, so I have an idea of what the nation was in part of 60s and 70s and what it is now.
Okay.
Now, let's find out, how did we get into the mess we are in? How did we get here? Because if you do not know the path that took you there or how you get to this point, we probably will not be able to retrace our steps. Let me think, in terms of moral values, there have been a depletion of moral values in this country beyond description. And the leaders may have their problem, but they have received encouragement from the followers to keep doing what they're doing. The leaders have been encouraged by those who follow them.
True.
So I think we need a holistic approach to address the issues that confront us as a nation. Let me get back to what I was trying to say here when I said there's been erosion of values in this country.
Okay.
Look at this, for instance. There's prioritization of money over education.
All right. Okay, because of time, we've just got 30 more seconds. I want you to probably anchor on that. How do we now refocus our values? Because money is a big deal in Nigeria today. And the way the economy is spinning is looking like only more money will solve the problem for the average man.
Not necessarily. The more money will not solve the problem if the morality, the moral basis is wrong. A loss of morality, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you lose the moral values, you're going to come to what the Bible says, the love of money is the root of all evil. That's the problem we have in the nation. Okay. We'll get to a point where people say, is it book we eat? Is it certificate we eat? Whereas there was a time in this nation that when somebody gets to school, go to school from a family, that's the pride of the family. We lost all of that.
True.
And I think that's where but religious bodies, pastors, imams, social reformers, these are the things that begin to focus on. Let's repair the moral fabrics of the nation And then we can have a better country.
All right, Dr. Simeon Afolabi, I want to say thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, repairing the moral fabric of our country. What's to live by? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.